So, how are you? I thought we would do a little reading about the collective, the energy of the collective, because, well, basically I'm exhausted. I was gonna go take a rest, and then I realized it's 4 o'clock, and it's a little early for bed. But I had a good full day, exhausting myself dancing and taking a walk in the forest, connecting with spirit a lot. So I felt really good about that. But I couldn't keep dancing. So, for the collective of whomever is drawn to watch this, we're going to do a reading of your current energies, okay? Kind of a baseline, and this of course is a general reading, so we may not be able to pinpoint things. If something does get pinpointed, only take it if it resonates with you. This is meant to be uplifting, which can come from feeling understood and seen and validated, and sometimes just from acknowledging. Okay, so whatever it is that we acknowledge and bring to our awareness is what's in front of us for asking for our acceptance. Okay? Oh, look at this. Your wish is granted. So is there something you've been working towards, wishing for, wanting, longing for? What you've asked for is coming true. Okay? I feel compelled to say, and sometimes there's a little bit of chaos in the breaking away of things that were keeping you from it, which is sometimes just a perspective. Okay? So let's see. Many of you have already completed quite a bit of inner work, some shadow work, getting in touch with who you really are. You fulfilled your soul contracts, you paid your karmic debt, and this is an acknowledgement of your peace and grace that you can rest in the lightness of being free from some of those patterns that have now fallen away. It's acknowledging that you have made a commitment to your spiritual path and learning through your spiritual teacher, which may be yourself, which may be life, the experience of life, but also that you may be teaching others through being an example, living your life with the spiritual principles in mind. You're teaching others about healing. You're doing this through self-care, through taking care of yourself. You've stopped asking others to do things that they can't do. You've stopped expecting of others where you may have had expectations about other people, maybe for them to change, wake up, stop doing something, think about something a different way, anything like that. Anything that you knew was just like your preference or what you thought was right, morally right. I think you've detached and been able to look at things from the perspective where you understand and see that this is an intricate process that's unfolding before our eyes to be observed. So I think you have let go of your expectation of others. You've let go of things that are no longer serving you. You've let go of patterns that were keeping you stuck and that felt unhealthy. As a result, you're being faced with new opportunities. So if you're not already in this energy, this is the energy that is on the timeline you're in. So you may be coming to it shortly. Everything's okay. I think that you are in a position to self-care, to trust yourself, to know that you can handle what arises and that you will handle what arises from within. That within you is where you need to handle these things. I think that you're feeling very confident about your ability to trust yourself. And maybe even finding your home is in your heart. That you can feel this trust and safety with life wherever you go because it's in you. You're willing to admit your true feelings to yourself instead of stuffing them down, instead of looking away, suppressing, denying, distracting, masking, shaming self. Any of those things have all fallen away. So you're honoring yourself. By summertime, things are going to shift big, where there may be a period of time where you are relying on your own self-reassurance and your own trust of self to handle what arises. By summer, you'll be seeing the reality reflect what your internal world has been. Even when things look imperfect, even when things look like you can't handle them, like there isn't a solution, like you are powerless, you're realizing that you do have the power. That it might not look exactly like you thought, like you wanted it to look, but you still have the power in that situation to choose how you respond. To choose to trust yourself, to choose to ask for guidance, to choose to ask for help when needed, to choose to take the time away in stillness with yourself to hear your guidance in yourself and to deal with those feelings that are arising. You are hearing the encouragement and the love from your spirit guides, from Source. You are being uplifted constantly by your highest self. You're priming the vessel for integration of highest self, always, as an ongoing process, and that may have involved changing how you eat. You may have changed your diet to allow certain types of healing, certain types of energy and codes that your body and your body or your vessel needs. That changing something which is in response to listening to your vessel. What does your vessel need? I think you've been very responsive to your vessel. And you understand that when these cycles become apparent to you, that's an opportunity for healing, that you are being presented with a roadmap to your healing always. That anything that's falling away was just something that wasn't true. If it's falling away, it's because you became aware that it wasn't true. But I do want to add that just because you lived by the pretense that it was true, it doesn't make you wrong, because that is the perspective that you came to experience. We know this because that's the perspective you had. You had it for as long as you needed to have it, And when it was fully understood is when it broke apart. When the light fully shined on every aspect of it that you intended on understanding, only then did it fall away to reveal the larger picture, the bigger picture, the truth. So when we said in the beginning we had that card at the root chakra, which was debt paid off, and I said that you had completed karmic cycles and contracts and things, you know, that's what it is that the perspective you held was held for as long as it was, because that was the agreement that you made. That's what your soul agreed to do. And now, as your soul has been prompted and you've learned to trust yourself and take your power back and use your free will towards freeing yourself from untruths, understanding why you believe what you do, why you've acted the way you do, just understanding, just witnessing, being present with the pattern automatically alchemizes the pattern. You trust yourself to be present with it in a way that you were previously unable to. This causes the healing, the emotional healing. This causes the pattern to be integrated, to fall away, to no longer be a prison, to no longer be something that you're learning from. Prison feels very much too harsh. I feel like I've been working to change the language that I use and make this more like, this was the process, nothing's gone wrong. What you've been through and where you've come from was the correct thing for you and for your soul. And there is no comparison here, because what your soul came equipped to do is not the same thing my soul came equipped to do. We each have our own skills, our own strengths, our own weaknesses, our specialties. And a lot of the experiences we had led up to the remembrance of what we are good at, what our strengths are. And it also revealed where our weaknesses are. Okay? So not how can it be wrong if this is the process? I think that we tend to, from our human perspective, say it's wrong because it's suffering, it's wrong because it's pain, it's wrong because it causes pain and it perpetuates pain. And that essentially is why we came to look at the pattern and understand it and dissect it, right? But both things are true. Yes, on a human level, that pattern is causing and perpetuating pain, but on a soul level, your soul came in to look at, understand that pattern, and you, as a human, would have had no motivation to look at and dissect that pattern had you not come in to experience it, to live it out, to perpetuate it a bit, to really look at it from the angles as many times as needed. Okay, it's what the paradigm we were born into on a human level is made of. It's lack, it's not enough, it's disempowered perspective. So what we're doing is building a bridge. We're alchemizing the disempowered perspective to the empowered perspective. And this is done by building a bridge of understanding. So as we realize what we've been doing, the pattern we've been in, and the way we've been coping is no longer valid based on what we've realized, and we're willing to take care of ourselves, and we trust ourselves to make a boundary or leave the pattern behind or make a new choice, or be accepting of the part of us that experienced that. that was wanting to justify that would have stayed in fear, perpetuating that for all time. We find forgiveness and love and collect all those fragmented pieces of ourselves that were too overwhelmed and too scared to feel it, and too overwhelmed and too scared and couldn't understand it. So as we can, as it's available to us, we pull these pieces of ourselves in, accept them, be present with them. No longer shun, deny, run away from, numb out from those feelings. And then with them integrated into the wholeness of who we are and all the things that we've experienced up to this point, we can now look at them with a new view, a more wholesome view, a bigger picture view that allows us to make a different choice about that, given what we now know, given that what we thought we needed to do, that wasn't true. Now we can make this other choice if we so choose, based on the wider understanding. And one of the things that happens in the disempowered paradigm that humans had entered into during this time on Earth is the punishment and reward parenting can train us into wanting to punish ourselves and others, wanting to be right. The consequences for being wrong in the punishment and reward paradigm could vary greatly, but be very big. And that can be very scary as a child, and when something happens as a child and we're not able to understand it, it's stored in our energy body to be experienced later when we've traversed more in life and have more understanding of life and may be more equipped to understand it. But since we didn't know that's what was going on, and since a lot of these energies stacked on top of each other, misunderstanding on misunderstanding on misunderstanding, and the protection mechanisms we have in place were trying to protect us from ever having to feel that, you can understand why it's easy to get lost. Because it wasn't taught to us that we have the power to learn from our mistakes, that actually when somebody else is judging or fearful in response to something we've done that's perceived as wrong, that's their fear, and that if they project it onto us and we choose to embody it as a reason to be fearful, then we have caught it like the virus that it is. And so once we replay that for ourselves so many times, we may come to that time where we realize, wait, where did I get this? Why am I telling myself that it's so wrong that I coped in this way? Why am I trying to hide this? Well, maybe because I was humiliated as a child when I was wrong. Maybe the kids on the bus picked on me. Maybe my father punished me severely. Maybe I got hit. Maybe I lost privileges. Maybe none of my friends would speak to me. Maybe they all made fun of me. They laughed at me. Maybe I was rejected on an intimate level when I tried to be vulnerable with somebody. There's all kinds of reasons why we stay in the patterns, because it's perceived as a way to survive, because connection was at stake, and connection is needed for survival. So now how we solve this is we reconnect to ourselves and our own heart, and we regain all the fragmented parts of ourselves. And as we do that, we feel stronger, more capable, more trustworthy. We earn our own trust back. And then we stand in our strength and our sovereignty, and we declare our sovereignty. I am a sovereign being. And the reason I want to claim that I'm a sovereign being is so that I am taking responsibility for how I feel, what's going on, and that I'm not taking it personal when somebody else may have a projection to rest on me from their perspective. It's not mine. And because I healed enough to know and trust myself, I know that. I can tell the difference. Whereas when I was fearful about what people thought because I was scared of the lack of connection and the death that that could cause for me, it was too scary to be in my power. It was too scary to think otherwise. It was too scary to abandon that belief for something that's more healthy. And so a lot of us are having to take those first steps to walk out of that paradigm without the support of others, standing strong and sovereign in our own strength, having traversed the judgments that are projected as we take steps out, because people who are still in the coping patterns and from the lack paradigm can get fearful when they see somebody stepping out of line. And they get fearful because now there's a choice point for them. There's an example of something else. They could do that something else, but if they don't want to, and the fear takes over, the fear may tell them, oh, don't listen to that person. That person's crazy. That person's rude. That person's wrong. That person's reckless. You know, whatever it may be, which may or may not be true from their perspective and from their perspective. But we each take back the responsibility for dealing with however we feel. So it wouldn't be my responsibility to deal with the feelings of fear that someone projected onto me in response to me taking steps out of the box, out of the paradigm. Empowering myself, taking my power back and declaring myself sovereign and able to respond to my own needs. So this process has involved building our own self-esteem, which I'm sure you know. And it has involved going through periods of time where it was important to stand on our own and to stop relying on others to make us feel a certain way, to give us validation or reassurance or advice. It has become very important to take that back upon ourselves because each person has their own perspective to experience. So if I always take advice from an outside spiritual teacher and I just do what that one tells me, I may be led off my path of what's right for me. Unless I'm checking in with me, I won't know that. I have to learn to trust myself. I have to be the one directing myself. And at first, in my process, that was difficult. And so you may have also traversed that period of time where it was difficult. But as you know, over time, over and over, admitting your true feelings to yourself and being okay and loving that part of self unconditionally, we take back our power. We stand in our sovereignty. We stand in our strength, our happiness, our beauty, our oneness, our unity, our compassion for anyone who is going through difficult times, whether they be projecting it upon us or not. We can stand in our sovereignty and have compassion. Because we too did that, right? We came from the place where we wanted them to be different so that we didn't have to see something that gave us a choice that we didn't want to have to make. And that is the paradigm of relating that we're dissolving here. Because it doesn't have balance in it. So if we each tend to our own garden, our own cup, fill up our own self with what we need, and then when we give to somebody else, we're giving from our overflow because we're always replenishing ourself. So when we're giving, we are not doing it with the expectation that we get something back. We're not doing it with the expectation that we get recognition, appreciation, or something back. We're not doing transactional relating anymore. We are filling our own cup and giving from the overflow. And once we're all doing this, this is just a perpetuation of abundance and being in our power as the conscious creators that we are. When everyone knows their own power to fill up their own cup, This eliminates all of the things from the lack paradigm, where there's not enough, where we have to compete, where we have to fight, we have to have war. All of that falls away when we awaken to the reality, which is there is enough. There's enough. We are all worthy. We are each God's children. He didn't make a mistake. There was no mistake made. I got this little guy. I don't know if you can see him. He's a little spider. I know. Yeah, so God didn't make a mistake. Our value, each of our value is inherent. We have an inherent value. And we don't need somebody else to validate that for us when we validate ourselves. I'm just going to put them over here in my rocks. The spider, the totem message from the spider is, what are you weaving? What is the story you're telling? And so that's what we're stepping into now. That's why by the summertime life will look different, because now we are telling ourselves the new story. Now we are telling ourselves that we have the ability to respond to our own desires and our own needs. And then we have the ability to give from our overflow. And we all have the ability to do this and fulfill ourselves. Okay? And it is a choice. It is a responsibility for being on earth at this time. And those who are unable to do it, that's their choice. They're making a choice to not proceed down that path of the bridge. But Earth is evolving, and this is the direction that people who want to stay here are going in. Okay? Okay. Let me just see if there's any advice cards before we go. It feels, like obviously you guys, we've done a lot of work, right? We've done a lot of inner work. We've been paying attention to how we feel. We've been taking responsibility. We've been claiming ourselves as sovereign beings. Okay, so I love this. I love this. I love this. The advice cards are, we got 6th and 7th house. And what that means to me is living in grace, living in a state of grace. 6th house is our day-to-day living. 7th house is our relationships. So really coming down to a place where we're still enough to be enjoying each of these steps, the joy of shuffling these cards in my hand, the joy of sitting on this soft, cushiony chair that I have, the joy of holding this beautiful crystal, the presence of being with the hot, sudsy water when I wash dishes, the texture of my blanket, the sound of the running water, the birds, the leaves rustling as I walk through the woods. Everything, even like the engine starting up on the vehicle that takes me to the place I need to go. The inspired art creation that comes through me. The lyrics that come through my heart and from a download. The texture of my hair. How it feels when I brush my hair. How it feels when I let myself see another person. How it feels when I let myself be vulnerable. How it feels when I let myself hear my voice. with no judgment, just presence. Being present and graceful through all the steps of life. And I think this is like the realization of the beauty of being on earth. And I honor you for being here. I'm going to close this out now. Please feel free to comment if you feel inspired to. Yeah, I think I'm just going to let that end there. Thank you for taking the time to be with me, to be present with me, to witness me. This is what I like to do, like finishing up my day. I know it's only been half an hour here and I'm probably still going to get in bed at 4:30. But I just felt like I wanted to contribute one more thing from my cup, which felt overflowing today. You know, my cup has been really filled up. I am so grateful. And it's because I've been filling my cup up. I think you have too. Thank you.